It's the Arch Advocate podcast for Tuesday. It is a special cryptocurrency redo with an X. Why do they spell it that way? I actually don't know. Probably French. But welcome everybody to the show. There's a 500-pound gorilla in the room that must be addressed, and I'm going to address it today. Now, for those of you that are kind of new to the show, this show actually started almost exactly a year ago. Only then it was called the Cryptocurrency Podcast, where I focused on cryptocurrencies. And there's a number of reasons because of a certain level of expertise that I have in my life because of my career choices and whatever. I could speak to that thing directly. But over the weekend, one of my dedicated listeners, affectionately referred to as the OG crypto creeps, had voiced some concern about the way that I was handling my coverage. I believe that this was an intention, my coverage of the cryptocurrency market. And because I stopped talking about it months ago, right? I changed the direction of the show, and I explained why I did that back then, but today I'm going to be talking about cryptocurrency. So I guess, before I start ranting, I guess my question would be to any of you. Maybe you're listening for the first time, because I'm going to put tags and the things on the YouTube show and tags on this episode itself. What is it you want? What do you want me to talk about? What do you want to talk about? You want to talk about the fact that this market has lost over 80% of its value in less than a year? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how many times in history that's ever happened before. Oh, that's right. It's never happened before. In a legitimate market, that's never happened before. 80%. Listen, the Wall Street crash of 1929, right? It went from October of 1929 to October of 1930. At its lowest point during that time, the market had lost 50% of its value. 50% of its value. That's, it was a little bit less than that. The Dow Jones Industrial Average in the summer of 1929 had gotten up almost to 400. Got up to about 380. And then about 2 or 3 months later, it had dropped down to exactly 200. That was its low point. That's less than 50%. But let's just, for the sake of this conversation, let's just call it 50% of its value. That caused people to kill themselves. That caused people to jump off of buildings and terminate their own lives. It caused one of the, what we call, well, I don't know if it caused it, but it was the beginning of the 12-year Great Depression. 50%. Okay, so just keep that in perspective for a second, because we're not talking about 50%. We're talking about 80 plus % in a year, right? Now, I made this clear on every occasion that I could. I said this over and over and over and over and over again. The point of me talking about cryptocurrencies was not to tell you like all of the other talking heads. My job wasn't to tell you this coin's gonna be great, this thing's gonna go to the moon. It was my point of the whole show was to do whatever I could to make sure that people didn't go insane, because I had seen it before. I had seen it before. And one of the biggest, listen, there's a number of things that let me just pull this up here for you. There's a number of things that I didn't like about this from the get-go, from the news media, right? This is the thing, is look, even the point of this show, the Arch Advocate Podcast, look, I'm not trying to convert you to Christianity. I make it known, I am a Christian, this is what I do, I believe this is something you ought to do, but I don't talk to you and tell you, you need to convert to Christianity, or you need to stop doing this and convert to, you know, being a conservative, or you need to take up my position on like being against abortion. Like I don't talk to you. I talk to you about like this. These are my things, right? But you have to do whatever you have to do. And when you're looking at when you're looking at the news, right? You've got news on cryptocurrencies, you've got news on the stock market and the Nasdaq and you know the S&P and the commodities and all that. Like you've got the news on that, and then you've got the news on what's going on in politics, and then you have the news on what's happening in current events like school shootings and plane crashes and, you know, Gavin McInnes getting thrown off the internet and you know Kevin Hart not being able to host the Oscars or whatever, right? When you're watching the news, you have to keep your eye on the ball, because what is said and the way that it's presented to you is important. You have to decide, like, are you having the wool pulled over your eyes? Is somebody casting a magic spell over you so that you can't see the truth? Because here's one of the first things that I saw in the cryptocurrency markets that was bothering me as it applies to like the news. And because news will shape your opinion on things, because the information that you have, it's like, well, this is all I have. This is what I have. These are the tools that I have to mold and shape my opinion on things. And one of the first things that I saw is that the cryptocurrency market was being likened to the tulip mania bubble of the 1600s, 1637 as a matter of fact, 1633 to 1637 in the Netherlands. The tulip bubble. What an obscure, absolutely, by the way, the tulip bubble, that is the historically the very first time that there was a crash in a recorded market. Like a legitimate market that people kept books on. Was in 1637, and I thought to myself, like, why are you using that example? To me, that's wizardry. Like, why would you try to tell people, like, oh, this is the tulip mania? People don't have any point of reference, sir, on what you're talking about. To be honest with you, as a former commodity trader, as a guy who like loves history and used to make a living at this sort of thing, before the cryptocurrency market, I had never heard of the tulip bubble. So if I hadn't heard about it, I know damn sure you hadn't heard about it, right? Because it was my job at one point to be up on all that sort of thing. There's all kinds of bubbles that birth. Second one, 1720, the Mississippi bubble. Never heard, until I started researching this, never heard of it. I've heard of a lot of other crashes, and I'm familiar with those, but bringing up some obscure reference from 1633 to 37, why are you using that as a reference when, since blockchain, when we speak about blockchain, we don't talk about blockchain, we talk about blockchain technology. We actually have a technology bubble that we can look back to that everybody is aware of. It happened in the late 1998 to 2002 was when that bubble really got to bursting. You had the tech bubble to reference it to. I didn't understand, like, why are you not bringing people's attention to the fact that we actually have a technology bubble where everybody got so excited buying cars.com because it's going to go to the moon, and then I'm going to be able to buy a Lamborghini, and all these kids, I remember this. When I was a commodity trader. I had moved out from doing currencies exclusively, and I was then working at a firm that we traded everything, oil and gas and metals and everything. And there were kids. These were like young, like 19, 20, 21-year-old kids, and they were walking in, and it was funny because you could tell that these kids, they didn't know how to dress, right? So they would buy these like really like lime. I remember this one kid had like this lime green shirt on that came out of a bag. You know what I mean? Like he bought this. It was not a. I guess what I'm trying to say is it was not a tailored shirt, right? Like when you reach a certain amount of money, you know what I mean? Like you have to, you know, your button down shirts, you have to go get them tailored. That's just the thing. You should, like, people will notice if you walk into a room with a shirt that you open up out of a bag, like everybody in the room who knows how to dress is going to be able to see that, and you're going to embarrass yourself. And this one kid, he comes in, he's got this lime green shirt on, some pants that don't match, you know, some suit pants, some slacks that don't match. He has expensive shoes, but it doesn't go with what he's wearing, and it's just like, and he comes in and he puts $200,000 down on soybeans or something like that. I can't remember what it was that they put him on, and the market chewed up his money within a week. That's the kind of thing that I'm used to seeing. And I use that one example because that was the freshest in my mind, but I could sit here and tell you those stories all day long of how these kids would walk into the office and the only thing that they had done in their life is they had figured out how to build a website in the late 1990s, which was a big deal. Like building a website today, you can go onto YouTube, you can watch a 3-hour tutorial and just follow along, because that's exactly what I did. And you could build a website. It's very easy. But in the late 1990s, like you couldn't, like you had to understand code and all that stuff. Like nobody understood it except for these young kids. And back then, like these people, they would just build a website and they would say, oh, this is going to be the new thing. And then you know, investment bankers and individual investors, they would all come in and they would just throw gobs of money at these stupid kids. Because it's like, oh, you have a website. Ooh, these were smart people giving money to these kids. I saw it. I saw exactly how it happened. I saw exactly who the money was going to. And I saw the people, once they had the money, I saw how they were spending it. And then that market completely popped. And you know why? Because Alan Greenspan, who was the Secretary of the Treasury, or he was he was the Chairman of the Federal Reserve. Right? Yeah, for like 12 years, since the Reagan administration. Alan Greenspan and, you know, the Oracle, Warren Buffett, they both came out and they rebuked the entire nation. And they said, listen, you assholes, you're buying stock at 400 times earnings. Now, for some people, that those words don't mean anything. So let me try to put that into perspective. Right? If you buy, you know, if you go down to your local new car lot, local Honda or Kia, I don't know, what's a cheap car these days? Kia, let's just say a Kia costs you brand new, with all the features, power windows, power locks, the whole shebang. Everything costs you $20,000, right? Let's just say that. But all of a sudden, all your friends start saying, oh, you gotta buy the Kia. Man, you gotta drive Kia, man. This thing is amazing. This is the way of the future, man. Like, if you buy this Kia, like, you're gonna get rich. If you buy this Kia, girls will like you. If you buy this Kia, you will automatically know how to dance like Justin Timberlake, right? Like this, you have to buy this car. You're like, oh man, I gotta get a Kia. So you run down to your local Kia, right? And they say, you know, hey, I want to buy a Kia. I got my 20 grand here. I got to buy a Kia. And the Kia salesman says, oh, sorry. It now costs 400 times that. Right? For the same damn Kia that functions exactly the same way. 400 times 20,000. I can't even do the math. Was it like $8 million? I don't know. I'm just kind of doing the math right in my head here. And by the way, it's like very early in the morning, and I had half as much coffee as I normally have. I'm not quite awake yet, and I've got some other stuff on my mind. But think about that. Would you buy that car? 400 times. Well, that's exactly what was going on. That's exactly what Alan Greenspan and Warren Buffett came out and said. They're like, people, you're buying something for 400 times what it's worth. And on top of that, you have no idea what you're doing. And the only reason, here's here's another thing. This is why I don't like like, seriously, like the Tulip Mania bubble reference. I have to go a little bit conspiracy theory on that. It's like, why would you use that reference when you had the tech, the tech sector, everything on the NASDAQ, right? You had the tech sector. It was a gigantic bubble. It popped. People killed themselves, literally killed themselves because they lost all their money, and then all of a sudden they didn't know who they were anymore. You had that, and it was recent, and we all remember it. You would have to be, let's see, 18. You would have to be 28 years old or younger to not remember that, right? Because if you were 10 years old in 2002, you would remember it maybe a little bit. You know what I mean? You'd have to be pretty young to not remember when that happened. I remember when it happened because I was knee deep in it. I was on the other side, right? While the stockbrokers, because listen, maybe someday I'll post like some of the images of like the buildings that I worked, where my firm, because I worked for 3 firms in total, but mostly just 2. But like I could show you like the buildings where we were in. There were buildings where it wasn't just our commodity trading firm. It was Dean Witter, Morgan Stanley, and it was Merrill Lynch, and it was Smith Barney when they used to be in business. Like, that's where I worked. And when we would go downstairs to smoke, it would be us, right, the commodity traders, the futures and options traders, and then it would be the the stockbroker boys. And they'd be over there smoking, we'd be over there smoking, and we'd, sometimes we'd talk shit. Sometimes we'd just, ask questions of each other or whatever. I mean, it was always friendly, but, there was that sort of team, like, we're a better team than you thing going on. We didn't have any respect for those guys because they didn't have to tell their clients. They were not required by law to tell their clients what we were. Their job was so much easier. They could just call you up and say, hey, Derek, right? Here's here's the message I got from, well, I'm not going to read it. Hey, Derek. Hey, Todd. Hey, Ian. Hey, listen, it's Pete here. I'm your stockbroker. Got some good news for you, man. There's this new website coming out, right? And you've seen everything that's been going on in the stock market, so I don't need to sell you anything. You need to go to your bank. And I don't care if you need to borrow. I don't care if you need to mortgage off your house. You need to go get me $100,000. And you need to send it to me right now because we're going to buy this new website. We're going to buy stock in this new upstart website. Because it's the tech, the tech, not, the tech stocks are going to the moon, baby. And we're going to change our lives here. Right? So you go down. I don't, as your stockbroker, I don't have to tell you that, oh, by the way, there is risk in all markets. This thing, it could do what I'm telling you that I think it's going to do, and it can also go to zero, at which point you lose all of your money. Oh, but here's the silver lining. The owners of that company, the people whose name that stock is attached to, they get to keep it all. Not all of it. You have to subtract my commission, which I get to keep. If this thing goes to zero, you don't get to keep any of your money. I get to keep a little bit of it. And the CEO of slicedbread.com, he gets to keep the rest. Minus taxes and whatever, but that doesn't concern you. No, the stockbrokers never had to say, they were not required by law to inform their customers, their clients, that these are markets that bear risk, and you could lose everything that you put into it. That's the fact. It doesn't matter if you buy stock in General Motors. You say, "Oh, Pete, that's not." Dude, they went bankrupt. The only reason GM didn't go to zero is because an unprecedented thing happened. The federal government stepped in, printed up a gigantic amount of money, and bailed them out. GM would have went to zero. Back in the days, we were talking to these stockbrokers. They're like, no, we don't have to tell them anything. They're big boys. They know the risk. It's like, no, they don't. Not unless you tell them. People don't know everything. They're off running their business. They're off doing their own thing. They don't know what you know. But commodity traders, futures and options traders, like we had, not only were we required by law to tell them that, the way that we would insulate ourselves from our clients suing us for not telling them that is that we would record them every single time, every single trade. You know how big of a pain in the ass that is? When you're right in the middle of your trading day and you're telling your customer, like, look, sorry, client, you're telling your client, like, look, man, I got you in those gold positions. We're up 70%, and we need to pull you out of this position because we think it's over, right? And we might get a few more ticks either way, but like the tendency is it goes this way, and that's just listen. You know, we need to pull you out of this position. Okay, right? Thank you, Mr. Customer. And then like we would hit record, and I would have to read this script like. State your name, state today's date, state the last four of your social, like da 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 da, like, and we would have to, and like every single time we would have to tell them, even when we were selling them out for a profit, even when we were selling them out of positions for a profit, we would have to have a recording of me saying to my client, you understand that you know, past performance is not indicative of future results. If you take my advice, you can lose all of your money, all of it. And if you ever, excuse me, and if you ever go into the futures, you can actually lose more money than you put into it. Do you understand these, Mr. Customer? Yes. Okay. Stop recording. You know, snap the stamp on the order ticket and send it to the floor. I'd have to do that every single time. We didn't have any respect for those stock market guys because they didn't have to tell people what the risk was. And I don't like that, right? There's nothing wrong with telling people, like, listen, all right? Okay, if, for example, you ever seen the videos of those guys in the flight suits that are affectionately known as squirrel suits, right? They jump off of a cliff, and then they fly like a bird. And they go like through crevices and, you know, like whatever, like they're flying around and it's like, wow, man, that looks cool. That looks really fun. Yeah, I think so too. Now imagine like if you went to one of those instructors, like the people who actually take you up and you know, get you the flight suit and whatever, and they're like, oh no, this is totally safe, man. Look at all these videos of all these people. Look at how much fun they're having. Of course it's safe, man. It's like, no. The fact is that like a lot of people every single year die from doing that. You don't like you have to be honest with people. It's all right because you know what? As badly as I want to fly in a squirrel suit, I never will. Why? Because I have two boys. They're brand new. Maybe when all my kids are grown up and moved out of the house, maybe I'll change my tune on this. But for the meantime, it's like, nah, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Yes, I want to fly through the air like a damn bird, but I'm not going to because the risk is too high. I am risk adverse to that. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. You know what I'm saying? And so when we have these people coming out saying like, oh, Bitcoin, it's going to go, excuse me, it's going to go to the moon. Dude, you're going to be able to buy a Lamborghini. Dude, check out this other thing. It's called BitConnect. They're like a lender, right? They're going to be the first like bank of the blockchain. Ooh, right? Oh, check out these other ones, man. There's we got this one called Enigma. Ooh, kind of spooky. We got this one called Local Coin Swap, and we got what was some of the other ones that we talked to? You know, there's Ethereum, and there's Bitcoin Cash. Now there's Bitcoin Gold, and there's just people that are just sending tons and tons and tons of money because after all, this is the future, man. Have you seen this market? It doesn't do anything but go up. I'd seen that before. I had seen it before. I saw it firsthand. I saw people lose their lives because they lost their minds. They died because they killed themselves, because they couldn't handle the sense of not, you know what I mean? Like all this, look, those kids, like the kid that I explained, came into the commodity trading firm and he wanted to play with the big boys. And he got chewed up and spit out and I'm talking about like 2 days. You know what I mean? Like his money got burned quick. He got thrown into it. He went into the futures and he got a margin call like the very next day, which is pretty rare, but well, not pretty rare, but rare enough. And then the market just spat him out like, nope, you can't play here. Kids like that. What happened with those people was that once all their money was gone, they realized that they didn't know anything about the world around them. Their entire worldview had been torn down. Just within a matter of months, they went from believing that they were evidence of the next step in human biological evolution. They were the smart ones. Look how smart I am. I know how to build a website. Look how smart I am. There's these very smart old men in $10,000 suits that are sending me millions of dollars. I must be smart. I must be so smart that my smartness now gives me superiority over those bullies who pushed me around in elementary school. I must be so smart that I no longer need to chase after women to get their affection. Now they need to come to me because my seed, right? Biologically, my seed is the way of the future. And all of you mongrels can go F yourselves. I'm smart. It's evidenced by what I'm able to do in the technological world. It's evidenced by the fact that rich men are sending me millions of dollars. I'm successful, man. I drive a Lamborghini now. I live in Newport Beach. I'm smart. They went from that to being dead broke and unable to get a $5,000 car loan so that they could go drive to, job interviews so that they could get back to work. They went from that to that overnight. They went from believing that they were gods incarnate to being cast down. And many of them didn't make it. Now there's a bit of comedy to that. I understand that, but you have to also think dude, that's tragic. It's tragic. And when I started this show, it was about look, man, just don't lose your mind. All right? I hope you get rich. I hope you get on, I hope you get on local coin swap and it goes to the moon and you pay off all your debts, pay off your house, send your kids to private school. I hope all that stuff happens for you. But no matter what happens, I need you to listen to my voice when you feel like you're going crazy. Come back to this point and hear me saying, don't lose your mind. Don't lose your mind. We're here for you. You know what I mean? Maybe something good's going to come out of this, but maybe something very bad's going to happen too, because I'd seen it before. And the fact that they were talking, all the talking heads were like, oh, tulip bubble, tulip bubble. No. That was concerning to me. It's no, you've got the tech bubble you can reference. Furthermore, on the news, it was CCN and these other news sites. The lack of actual news, substance. You know what I mean? There was no substance to what they were saying. It was all opinion. There wasn't a single thing coming out there well, we heard the guy from MasterCard and he said that now he's not doing blockchain. He's not going to do anything with cryptocurrencies now. But if you really read between the lines, I think what he was really saying was, it was dude, that's not, stop it. Stop doing that. And then when guys like Warren Buffett would come in, this was one of the, and I talked about this, and I think that I have failed to properly express to all of you, how frustrated this would make me. Okay, if you It's like in the book, many of you bought The Richest Man in Babylon. By the way, Richest Man in Babylon, what is it, $8, $6, something like that? It takes you 4 hours to read. In The Richest Man in Babylon, there's a part where it talks about, like, only take advice from those that are qualified to give it. Only take advice from those who are qualified to give it. And there's this other thing where it talks about, like, if you want to get advice, like, go find the oldest man who is the wisest and go talk to him. And they're like, well, but he's old and wise and rich. Like, he's not going to want to talk to me. And the guy explains to him, like, oh, no. Old, he says, an old tail loves to wag, right? Like, if you go talk to these old men, they will love to sit down and pour out all their wisdom, because that's what they love it. There's no reason that any of you, right? Like, if there's, there's people in your town that have hundreds of millions of dollars, and you would never notice them because they're not assholes. Like, they just look like normal people, because they are. You can like petition them and say, hey, listen, like if you could just give me, a cup of coffee a month. Like, just sit down and have one cup of coffee with me, 20 minutes. Once a month, I just need you to teach me your ways. And you need to be selective about who you listen to. It's like, if you want to know the truth about, what's that show where the chef is a real asshole all the time? What's that guy's name? But the thing is about that guy, it's like, he knows what he's talking about. Like, he is one of the best chefs in the world. That's why he gets to be on TV. Also, his boisterous personality and whatever. Right? Like, if you want to know the truth about, building rockets and sending them into space, well, like, probably Elon Musk is where you want to be. Or his team. You know what I mean? Like, people that he knows. Like, if you want to know the truth about something, you can't just take what you think, go with your gut. It's like, no, there's people that know about that, right? If you want to know the truth about fighting, then you need to go talk to the Gracie family, read all their books, look at all their videos, and should you ever be so sourced in your life, like, you could fly down and probably talk to those guys. But whatever. Like, if you want to know the truth about something, then find the expert and go talk to that guy. Well, Warren Buffett is the expert. He's the guy. The highest of the high. You understand that? I saw it as a dangerous assault when these writers at CCN and these other, what was the other big news source for cryptocurrencies? But they would all, whenever Warren Buffett would come out, and he'd be like, no, I'm not buying any cryptocurrencies. I'm not doing that. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, you have, like, I hope it works out for you, but this doesn't make any sense to me. And people were writing full-on articles about, like, oh, he's just some old, white, pasty, he's old, man. Look how old he is. He's just a fuddy-duddy. He's old. It's like, dude, nobody knows more than that guy. Nobody in the history of mankind ever accumulated as much wealth through investing than that guy. Nobody. Not King Solomon, not, you know what I mean? You're going to sit there and say, like, how many times did you read those? Oh, don't listen to this guy. Don't listen to that guy? Are you out of your effing... That's like, you guys remember who Jack LaLanne was? Right? He was that old man that was like physical fitness, and he had the, Saturday show on PBS of him working out. You know what I mean? He lived, I think he got to be 100 years old, didn't he? But he was all about working out. It's like, okay, so you're not going to take fitness, health, nutrition advice from that guy? Okay. You know what I mean? Like, okay, so you want to learn jujitsu, but you're not gonna study Hoist Gracie. It's like, what are you talking about? Oh, he's old, man. He's an old guy. You're out of your effing mind. If that's who you are, if that's your pattern in life, you're stupid. When the wisest man in the history of the world, when it comes to investing, says something about investing, you don't have to take his advice, but you do have to listen. Right? They would say, oh, well, Warren Buffett. This was one of the craziest, again, like you have to like try to see it from my perspective. I lived through the tech bubble. Like I wasn't in it because I wasn't a stockbroker, but I was right next door. You know what I mean? Like I saw it all happen. When the news media came out and people were on television and in news articles talking about the tulip bubble, it's like, dude, you have something that is relevant and recent and almost exactly the same thing. And these people were saying, it drove me nuts that they would say, oh, Warren Buffett, he's so stupid that he didn't buy Amazon.com in whatever it was, 97 or 98. And I remember back then. I remember Warren Buffett coming out because back then it was the same thing. He wasn't buying Amazon, he wasn't buying Microsoft, he wasn't buying Qualcomm, he wasn't buying any of that stuff. There was nothing on the NASDAQ that Warren Buffett was buying. And so Maria Bartiromo or who are, these people that make their living by gathering information, right, which is a noble profession, they sat down with him. They're like, hey, why aren't you buying cars.com? What, do you think there's not going to be any cars in the future or something? And he just says, no, I don't buy it because I don't understand what's happening right now. I don't understand, like if I buy stock in this website, I don't understand how that's going to make me money. And what's even worse is that like if it fails, there's no such thing as preferred stock on cars.com. So I don't have any recourse. If this thing fails, I don't get any of my money back. So I'm not going to, I don't understand what's happening. Best of luck to you. I hope cars.com is the way of the future. I hope Amazon.com sells a lot of books and puts Barnes & Noble out of business. I hope that eDigital creates whatever and Qualcomm does whatever. It's like, but I'm just, you know what? I make a lot of money doing what I know about. And I know that when I buy a stock in a company, it's because they have way more earnings than they do debt, and they have a certain amount of cash on hand. Because I know that the way you get to that, where your earnings far outweigh your debt, and the fact that you have a bunch of cash ready for emergencies, like the way that happens is proper leadership. When I invest in companies, I'm investing in the person behind that company. And when I see these certain things, I know like, oh, this stock is undervalued. Hell, they're practically giving it away. So I'm just going to buy this stock, and then I'm not even going to look at it until the rest of the world catches up to me and realizes like, oh, this is a very good company. Why am I not already in this? Warren Buffett said the stock market is where impatient people go to give their money to patient people. That belongs in Proverbs. That belongs in the Bible. The stock market is where impatient people go to give their money to the patient people. And here we have the cryptocurrency market where it's like, dude, there's $700 billion missing. $700 billion. Again, I broke down on a number of occasions like how much $1 billion is. Like if you had $1 billion, it would be impossible for you to spend it. Impossible. You know what I mean? It's an insane amount of money. And 700 of those things, they're just gone. Where did they go? Well, they went into the pocket of guys like, the Ethereum guy and guys like John McAfee. Okay, so here's another thing. Again, you have to keep your eye on like the signs. What are the signs? Well, first of all, they're saying it's a bubble, which no problem there, gotcha. But which bubble? Not the tech bubble of the 1990s, early 2000s, but a bubble that happened 500 years ago, right? Or 400 years ago, whatever. You're referencing that bubble. Okay, well, automatically my ears, you know what I mean? Like my ears perk up like, okay, what's going on here? Why are you doing that? Secondly, the Oracle of Omaha comes out. Warren Buffett comes out and says some things that make you feel uncomfortable. And instead of sitting down and taking in his wisdom and saying, okay, well, maybe I'll just put my money in this and then remove myself emotionally from it. So that if Warren Buffett is right, because by golly, that guy's right a lot, then if he's right and I lose my money, then can't say I didn't try, right? Maybe I'll be lucky and I'll be the guy that got on Amazon, which was a stock that went from like $3 to, what was it, like $1,000, and then it went all the way back down to $3. Yeah, where were you then to talk crap about Warren Buffett? Where were you then when all those people thought that they were rich and the very next day they were poor again? Where were you then to talk trash about Warren Buffett? Oh, it's real easy to look back through the lens of history, but you weren't, you know what I mean? You weren't there, and Warren Buffett was. And when that happened and the tech bubble exploded and every single business went out, with the exception of like a handful of companies that had actual product, like Qualcomm, like Microsoft, like Amazon, whose products belonged to other people. Warren Buffett wasn't wrong; he was absolutely correct. And you could say like, "Oh, he didn't make any money on Amazon." He doesn't need to. He doesn't need to. Warren Buffett does what works. And it drove me nuts. And then again, the other thing is like, who else were the players a year ago and to this day? Who else is it that has an opinion on cryptocurrencies? Oh, John McAfee. Nothing wrong with that guy. Yes, he wrote some code and came up with, McAfee antivirus and security and all that other stuff. Good for him. Made millions of dollars. Good. He is smart when it comes to doing, what he did. He invented something. But that does not make him an expert at life. Because John McAfee is on the hedonic treadmill. Do you know what that is? Hedonism. Hedonism is the philosophy or religion of feeding the flesh. Just give it what it wants. Oh, I want to eat 3 donuts in a row and wash it down with a cup of, Dunkin' Donuts coffee. All right, well, you're going to pay for that. No, I won't. This is hedonism, man. I do what I want. I just want to crush ass, man. I just want to bang as many girls as I can. It's like, okay, you're certainly not the first to do that, but you're going to pay a price for that. No, I'm not, man. Get your puritanical religion away from me. It's like, dude, you're going to get herpes. No, I'm not, man. I use a condom. I just want to do cocaine, right? All right, man, like a lot of, Keith Richards does a lot of cocaine. But you're going to pay a price for that. You can go to prison, you can get shot, drug deal gone wrong, somebody decides they want to keep your money and the coke. There's a lot of things that can go wrong with that. And the treadmill, the reason why they call it a treadmill is that hedonism, it never stops. Once you satisfy that appetite, you realize that it wasn't what you thought. And you need to step your game up. All right? You thought having sex with like a bunch of girls was going to make you feel better. Well, it didn't. And now you decide that you need to have a sex with a bunch of girls at the exact same time. And that isn't enough. And then, what's after that? Like, how much more perverse can I get with this thing? Right? I couldn't do enough cocaine. I couldn't eat enough donuts. I couldn't bang enough acid. It just gets worse and worse and worse. That's how you end up with the child sex slave industry. Right? That's how you end up with a guy going on into an interview saying, well, the first time I ate human flesh. That's John McAfee. He says, oh, I was just kidding. It's like, dude, you are like the priest of hedonism. There is no reason to believe that John McAfee never hunted a man for sport, never ate human flesh. There's no reason to believe he didn't do all those things. That guy is on the hedonic treadmill. There's pictures of him doing huge batches of cocaine. You know what I mean? Like, this guy is clearly on the hedonic treadmill. And you have to understand that people like that, it's never enough. It will never stop, right? They have to, it stops when they crash and die. But until then, they just get more perverse and more perverse and more perverse. And what was happening with him, he was coming out and saying, oh, you should check out this coin. He was going on Twitter, hey, my pick of the day. Remember, it was daily at that one point. Hey, my pick of the day, this coin. And then you go on to coinmarketcap.com and that coin would skyrocket. Because that's what John McAfee was telling people to buy. And he was getting paid by those companies to do that. That's, in the stock market and in the commodities market, that's against the law. You go to prison for that. But because it's the cryptocurrency market, because the people, and this was like the big crown of like, okay, this place is crazy, could work. Listen, I saw Beanie Babies skyrocket in value. I saw Cabbage Patch dolls skyrocket in value. Pokemon cards. Do you understand? Fidget spinners. Anything can be used as currency. Anything. Like that old shave and a haircut, 2 bits. You know where that comes from? Bits. Like the original form of currency, like the original form of mass produced currency was like, it was like a clay Tootsie Roll, right? And they would bake this little cylinder of clay and they would imprint the king or emperor's like face on it, whatever, and that was currency. And that's how you paid for things, was that you broke off a bit and you handed it to the merchant, and that's how you got your stuff. But it was very easy to counterfeit. All you needed was, an oven, some clay, and something, like somebody who knew how to work metal and make a picture of the emperor or whatever. It's a good idea, it's just had its flaws. Why did I just start talking about that? The history of currency. But anyways, the biggest thing, on top of everything else, people talking shit about Warren Buffett and the fact that he didn't want to participate in cryptocurrencies. Like, that was big. The fact that instead of using the tech bubble, which crashed, as a focal point, they went back as far, they put as much distance from that as they possibly could have. The tulip bubble is the first recorded, but it's not the first time it happened, but it was the first time it was recorded. It's the thing that's the furthest away from us in history. Instead of using the tech bubble of the 90s and 2000s, they got away as far as they could. So that's number one. Then there's the way people talked about Warren Buffett when he came out. And he was like, yeah, you kids with your fancy record players and whatever, like, I'm not doing this. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't even know what I'm buying, and what's worse is neither do you. And then there was like this, to this day, like this weird love affair with John McAfee. John McAfee is going to die horrifically. Because not only is he on the hedonic treadmill, he's got the money to keep going. Do you understand? Like this is not a guy that you want to be taking any sort of advice about from anything. You say, yeah, but what about McAfee security, whatever. Dude, he's done so much cocaine since then. He's not the same guy. So, no. But then finally, like the biggest thing, and again, the reason why, like, when this thing just started crapping the bed, like, I just stopped talking about it, because it's like, look, this is just a sign of how insane everything is. Because what it was that the people, right? The people who were putting their money down and buying and going and taking, again, going to their college, disbursement office and taking their disbursement of federally backed student loans and then going and buying cryptocurrencies with it. You know what I mean? Crazy. But the thing that these people were chanting, these students, these young people, these people who were writing these articles, the people that were in the comment section on the BitConnect, on the Trayvon James pages, what was that guy that he's a professional poker player there in Vegas who was doing cryptocurrencies for a little while. The main outcry from the masses was, we don't want regulation. We don't want a centralized regulatory authority. Okay. Now, I've made this clear on many occasions. I am not a fan of bureaucracy. And there's only one thing, when it comes to that sort of thing, there's only one thing I hate more than bureaucracy, and that's a lack of it. The reason why those people at BitConnect will not go to prison, like that, not to make, like they'll the reason why the Mount Gox guy with the big man tits won't go to prison, the reason why John McAfee will never be held accountable legally for going on Twitter every day and promoting currencies which he was getting paid to promote, which is against the law. You cannot make recommendations to people. You have to have licenses for that, and I'm quite certain he doesn't. Quite certain. The reason why none of these people will ever be held accountable is because there's no regulation. There is no laws. No laws were broken because no laws exist. This is what you get when you cry out for anarchy. You know what I mean? Like, the idea of anarchy is good and appealing, but the problem is you get one person who interprets anarchy as like, well, this is just an excuse for chaos. I can just be as chaotic as I want. You get one guy in there who does that, and the whole thing collapses. Therefore, you go back to why you have to have bureaucracies in place, laws in place, people to enforce those laws, judges to rule on them. You have to have a structure and a system in place. Because when you don't, pop. And $700 billion just disappears. So yeah, I'm keeping my eye on the cryptocurrency markets, same as you. If you want to talk about it, I'll talk about it. But the fact is like, you're not looking at the tulip bubble. You're looking at a redo of the tech bubble in the late 1990s. It's the exact same thing. People got all excited, and then, laid waste. And to you guys that stuck around and are still part of the community, that are still part of the show, I hope you are in good spirits. I hope that whatever work that I did lended to the idea of you keeping your effing mind, that you didn't go crazy, and that you did keep it in perspective, like, okay, I'm just speculating. I'm going to take this $5,000 or this $1,000 or this $50 or whatever it is, whatever it was that you felt comfortable with. I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it on whatever it is, like maybe it was one of the guests that we had on the show, maybe it was something that you heard about on your own, whatever, and I'm just going to put this money down and I'm going to give it 20 years. I'm going to give it 20 years because that's what it took for Amazon. It took 20 years for Amazon. And if that's what you did, then, if that was your mentality, please let me know so that I can feel better. You know what I mean? Like, I hope that you kept your, listen, losing money sucks. It sucks every time. There's no circumstance where it doesn't suck. But there's things that you can do to mitigate your, like, you can't lose your mind over these things. And if you didn't, like, if you're, today, December 11th, and you're, you got your Christmas tree up, right? Yeah, you wish you had a little bit more money. you wish you had that money back from the cryptocurrency market, but whatever, you'll live. You're still gonna have a Christmas with your family. You're still gonna put on some Nat King Cole in the background, maybe light a fire if you have a fireplace. You're gonna eat some dinner with your loved ones. It's gonna be nice. Your house is gonna smell like a pine tree. Merry Christmas, everybody. Like, you didn't lose your mind. And for that, I'm grateful. And if I had anything to do with that, then I did what I set out to do. If I was of any use to you in keeping your mind, then mission accomplished. No, I don't apologize. I don't apologize for turning away from it. The damn thing was down. It lost half its value by I think it was like even before summer. That was the sign, everybody. You know? And so I decided to start talking about other crazy parts of the world. Current events and weather cycles and technology and Gavin McInnes and you know, politics changing where people are being silenced and people are being killed and whatever. It's like, no, like, let's just keep our eye on everything and let's not lose our minds because something's coming. Something's coming. We don't know what it is, but it's something. Politics are changing. Cryptocurrencies tried to change the nature of money. The EU just marched on France militarily. Like, you think there's not other important things to not focus on, but keep your eye on? That's what I'm doing now. I hope that you're still part of the community. It saddens me. Like, look, you know, Fat Sack, he's gone. You know what I mean? Like, we had him on the show. Like, it bums me out. Like, there's a number of people that are gone, and I don't have access to them anymore. Like, they don't listen to the show. They don't write me. Like, whatever. That bums me out, man. I'm not gonna apologize. Like, I was right. I was right to do what I did with the Crypto Currently podcast. I was right to do it in the first place. I was right to turn it off when I did. And maybe, just maybe, 20 years from now, you can write me and say, hey, you know what? I held on to my Dogecoin. Now 20 years later, I'm a gazillionaire. Here's $100. Well, I'm just kidding. But you know what I mean? Who knows? But whatever. That's the show for today. If you want to support the show, the biggest way you can do that is hit the effing subscribe button, yo. Hit subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm at like 260 subscribers now. I need 10,000. I need 10,000 subscribers. That's what I need. Right? The show costs money, and I'm also like this close, and I'm going to be talking about this probably tomorrow or maybe Thursday. I'm about to take a gigantic blow to the old wallet when it comes to this show. Right? If you want to support the show, please do that with PayPal. Think of PayPal as like a tip jar. Leave a couple of little tokens, right? You buy your coffee, you take the change, you put it in the jar. Let us have a little tip here. What do you say? PayPal. Not, I'm going to get into Patreon. I'm not going to do it now because I'm already at 58 minutes, 59 minutes. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. But like, if you want to support the show financially, PayPal. And please do that because things are about to change for the show pretty dramatically. Archadvocate.com is where you can find the PayPal link, PayPal me/archadvocate, I believe it is. But you can see that on my website, archadvocate.com. Please do that and leave a comment, man. Leave me a message and I'll read it out loud. Oh, by the way, congratulations, Matthew Pink. He just sold his business. Good for you, brother. That's it for today. I'll talk to you all tomorrow.